All right, and we are live. Welcome, everybody. My brothers from another mother. We're going to do an update on cryptocurrency blockchain. I'm on with Ameer Rosic from Block Geeks. He is. Hang on. Look at what I got going on here.
What's going on?
I got the fucking audio feedback. Anyway, just fix it. Okay, back to Ameer, my boy. Sorry about that. These are part of the technical difficulties you get with live broadcasts. So, Ameer, we talked. I don't know, it was like 2015, 2014. We were having lunch at this great restaurant, amazing weather. We just did like kind of a bit of a collab video together driving in the car. And you were telling me about how you were going to double down on cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and Bitcoin as a future. When was that? 2014?
Shit.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah.
Anyway, so I was kind of like chuckling to myself. I'm like, oh man, I hope he doesn't, go too far down this rabbit hole and it doesn't work out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit on the sidelines. And what did I say to you at that time? I said something along the lines of, I've seen what happens when a new industry comes along that threatens an already existing industry. Regulators and legislators can sometimes turn it on its head. And I had that experience myself with my business. And you're like, no, man, this thing's going to change the world. It's the shit. I'm like, I'm going to wait. And I waited and I waited and I watched and I waited and I watched and I saw what happened. And then I got into it last December with all the other Muppets that were doing the fear of missing out stuff. So give them a bit of your background and tell them what's going on with Block Geeks, because I haven't done an update on this stuff in a while.
Yeah. So my quick background, been in the crypto space for a while, 3.5+ years. Started off in Bitcoin. Toronto's a big hub for blockchain technology. A lot of top developers, top companies are here in Toronto. Then about 1.5 years ago, me and Dmitry Buterin, so Vitalik Buterin's father, so Vitalik Buterin, if you guys don't know, is the founder of Aetherium. We decided to start Block Geeks, and we specialize in training blockchain developers online. So study your own self-pace. So if you're a junior developer looking to train this technology, that's what we do.
Awesome. And let's do a little bit of an update on what's been happening out there, because I've gotten really interested in it. I've accepted the fact that it's going to be it has to replace the monetary system. Let's talk about that for a minute. We've got a messed up monetary system where government prints as much money as they want. They control everything. And basically every dollar that we have, like money that I have sitting here, is worth less tomorrow than what it is today because of the way the monetary system works.
Happened to my grandfather, man. Yugoslavian war.
Tell us that story.
It's very simple. He had money in the bank. War started, and money was worthless.
Right. And that happened a few other places throughout the world. We've seen it in Greece. We've seen it in parts of South America. Like we see people in South America now that when they get paid, they actually get paid. They don't count the money. They just weigh it.
They weigh it.
Right. So, we live in this bubble in North America and the Western world. I know most of the guys that are watching this right now, have access to the luxuries of life, cars, internet, and that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of places in the world where this solves a lot of problems. There's a lot of unbanked people in the world. Like we talked about that a lot too. Fill us in on that story.
So it's about like 2.5 to 3 billion people from the World Economic Forum to say it's unbanked. A couple of reasons why they're unbanked. A, they don't trust their government. B, they weren't even born or registered as citizens of that country, so they can't even prove they're part of the country. And C, a lot of times they've lost their documentation. So there's 3 billion or maximum 3 billion people who are unregistered in the economic systems.
Right. What's your feeling on the monetary system? Like, what do you think is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think we're going to have a big war. I think it's going to be very interesting what happens with the renminbi in China. Because at the end of the day, everything's hedged on the greenback, and the greenback dictates international policies. If you look at gold, if you look at any exchanges, we're not even talking about crypto exchanges, we're talking about Forex exchanges or currency exchanges or stock exchanges. Everything is pegged on the greenback. And so it's going to be interesting. I'm more actually interested in seeing what happens with the euro. Because I think it's a flaming pile of shit.
Why do you think it's a flaming pile of shit?
The monetary policies, like if you look at the euro monetary policies and what they dictate, it's almost akin to a mafia. What they tell you how to use the money and what kind of policies you as a country, part of the EU, have to oblige by. And there's no sound economic reasoning behind EU whatsoever. And so it's interesting. I don't think fiat will disappear, but what I do think is we are going to evolve At least nations will, because it makes more sense to them. I think we will see in our lifetimes within the next 5 to 10 years, and I think China might be the first with the renminbi, we might see a blockchain-based fiat cryptocurrency that the government owns. Because what
explain that renminbi.
Renminbi is just a Chinese currency.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So same thing like the greenback and the Canadian dollar. And so imagine this. So in the United States, roughly 40% of taxes is unpaid or uncollected for various reasons, whether it's tax evasion or, for the most part, it's so fucking complicated, people don't even know what to do. It's ridiculous. Imagine having a blockchain-based national crypto. So let's say call it the greenback crypto, where they know exactly where you're spending the money because it's all traceable. They know how much you have, and they can take taxes automatically from you.
Doesn't that completely go against the notion of what like cryptocurrencies are supposed to be? Because it all came out in 2008 because people got fed up with the way the monetary system worked, and the bank and the government.
The cypherpunks who originally started it, yes, and they're still working on that, but it's an open source technology. Anyone can adopt it. The beautiful part where we are today is I don't need to choose to use their currency. Like even today in my business, a lot of my freelancers and contractors around the world want to get paid in crypto. They don't want to get paid from PayPal or Stripe or anything else. A is expensive on their end. It's slow. They want instant payments and secure. Depending on the country they're living in, there might be issues with the government.
All right. I want to kind of, before we proceed, guys, if you're just coming on new and just joining the Hangout, I'm on with Ameer Rosic. We're talking about blockchain and cryptocurrency and where we are with this world. It's just kind of like a random show that we're going to do and maybe do some updates on what the future might look like. We were chatting about things potentially collapsing in the next, 5 to 10 years. I mean, there's a lot of pundits out there that like go on and on about, this thing can't stand for much longer. Like this house of cards has got to fall apart. We're long overdue for a correction in the marketplace. Would you agree? Like in the stock markets?
For everything, I think the stock market's all based on speculation.
It's been 10 years. Normally it corrects every 7 or 8 years. It's long overdue.
Yeah, if you look at Ray Dalio's macroeconomic cycle, we're in for it right now. So it's roughly between 2017 to 2020. That's his kind of range. So, we're 2018, 2 years to go to hit that. But if we're looking at history, we are in for a real big ride. We didn't even fix ourselves from 2008 crash, from the real estate crash.
No, nothing changed, man.
Oh, they started doing QE, quantitative easing, printing trillions of dollars of money, suppressing the interest rate. Like, think of this for a second. The average North American doesn't have $400 in savings. If we put up the interest rate by 0.5, more than 33% of real estate will be foreclosed. So that means that even 0.5, that means if you have a mortgage, the regular person cannot afford an extra $400 to $500 a month on their mortgage.
There's all kind of markers that suggest that there's problems. I mean, I've got a business in the credit card debt relief space. Yep. I see what happens when people get into debt, how they manage money. They don't have an understanding of money. The government wants to control money. The banks and credit card companies want to lie in bed and be married to the government and align with that control because it's in both their best interests. At what point, is all this going to change and collapse and allow us to move to a new monetary system that's not, that doesn't have Big Brother running the whole fucking show?
I think we're going to have micro and macro black swan events. I think this whole thing with Facebook and Zuckerberg being on the Hill yesterday or the last 2 days is very interesting. And it shines a good light on the whole aspect of privacy, selling our data, selling information that doesn't belong to them, or more or less people using this information for espionage. So I don't think so. This is going to be like lightning strikes and all of a sudden people care about privacy or people care about the value of their dollar per se. I think this is going to be a slow osmotic evolution, and then some black swan events will happen that will make more people wake up.
Can you explain what a black swan event is?
An unpredictable event. So if you guys haven't read anything from Nassim Taleb, definitely read his books. His last book, Skin in the Game, is really good. The book before that is Black Swan, and the book before that would be before that would be Anti-Fragile, then Black Swan.
And Anti-Fragile was a great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. Yeah. But that being said, people in North America, we're kind of lucky. I wouldn't say lucky, but we're not, we have a lot of luxuries other people don't have. For the most part, Canada has a decent banking system. People aren't starving on the streets. etc. But you mentioned certain countries in South Latin America, like Venezuela, places.
Well, hold on a sec. Let's talk about Canada because we're both in Canada.
Sure.
We live in a welfare state. You
Yep.
know, the people that are doing all the work are treated as tax cattle. They're basically moving wealth from one side to the other. They're punishing people that are doing the work, and they're rewarding people that are putting in the time to do the work.
Yeah.
Well, the Ontario itself has more debt than the state of California.
Ontario's a shit show.
It's
problem over here is the frog analogy in water. It's not direct pain. That's the issue, right? So if you go to places like Venezuela, or my buddy just came back from Iran, or wherever it may be, it's direct pain that people feel. It's not pain that's 20 years or 30 years in the future that your grandchild feels. You feel it that day. And so that's why there are more excited, and the use cases and the actual citizens of that country are more savvy towards cryptocurrencies as opposed to, say, North America. Because there's a necessity to use it. They have to use it.
What do you guys do at Block Geeks, if you can explain that to viewers right now?
In the most simplistic terms, we train developers. So if you're a junior developer looking to whether code on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hyperledger, or any of these platforms like Cosmos or Aeon, we train you online. It's study your own self pace. And then we help you get a job on some of these decentralized platforms on the back end.
And the developer's basically doing all the coding for the crypto.
Yep.
Got it. I texted you a couple months ago. I was watching this video on YouTube. I think it was called The Future of Money by Maloney, and he was talking about Hashgraph being a potential replacement for the blockchain. Can you talk about Hashgraph, or maybe first explain what it is and then talk about your view on that as a potential?
It's a new variation of a decentralized technology. They just released their open source coding. It has very similar syntax and coding system from Ethereum, so Solidity. And so it's experiment, like the blockchain itself, even Bitcoin right now, Ethereum, Hashgraph, Cosmos, Aeon, Polkadot, all these big platforms are still an experiment. We still have a long, long way to go to see this full potential of this technology. And for me, I'm more bullish in seeing privacy coins. I really want to see Monero evolve. I want to see Zcash evolve. I want Bitcoin to evolve to the Lightning Network, where everybody around the world with a cell phone connection can use it and costs less than 1/10 of a penny to use it. We haven't achieved that true dream of a decentralized peer-to-peer encrypted currency yet. We haven't.
Isn't that what Bitcoin Cash does though?
No, like they're trying. Well, they're saying Bitcoin went this way, and it's not adhering to the original Satoshi white paper. And then Bitcoin Cash, like, we're going to adhere to original Satoshi white paper. At the end of the day, I think competition is great. For me, what I follow where the developers go.
And where are the developers now?
Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, Zcash.
Interesting. I just want to be respectful to people that are popping into the chat and throwing out a super chat. There's a question here that came from Ivan, and he said, can you explain to a noob why should I invest in crypto instead of stocks, land, gold, silver, and other valuables?
You should invest in all of the above.
That's what I think. Diversify. You don't go all in on one thing. I mean, there's people that mortgage the crap out of their houses in the States that have seen the value of their crypto tank. So
Yep.
I didn't bank on it when I started throwing money at it in December when it was, approaching its peaks. Like I'm probably down overall, but I put less than 5% of my money into it at the time because I knew that, what the fuck am I doing? Like I didn't know what I was doing, obviously.
I'm so bullish on Bitcoin. I think it's so undervalued right now. Same thing with Monero, Ethereum, Zcash. I would not be surprised by summertime this year. Bitcoin's hovering around 40K.
You think so?
I would not shock me whatsoever.
What do you think would be the catalyst to make that happen?
Certain regulations done by countries, or new, or just a run. Somebody buys in a lot, and it triggers a bull run.
What do you think about regulators? I mean, we talked about regulators when we opened up this broadcast, and I know from my own experience in my business, so to kind of parallel the two, I run a business in credit card debt relief. It helps save people a ton of money. It comes at the cost of banks and credit cards earning profit. What do? They talk to legislators, policymakers, they change the legislation, and it completely throws the industry upside down. So I saw what happens firsthand if they want to flex their muscle, if government and the people that run money want to flex their muscle. Isn't that a serious threat still?
Well, regulations always, there's a saying, right? First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And so in the crypto space, there's a couple of
Where are we in that thread right now, you think?
I think they're fighting us, definitely. But there's also things to kind of clear out over here to make sure people understand. There's a huge difference between Bitcoin and Monero and 99% of these tokens that people create. There's a massive, massive difference. You can't bunch all of these coins in the same basket. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, Zcash, they are very different than 99% of these ERC20 tokens. So when people hear about ICOs and say Richard and I decide to build a business, we're like, hey, we're going to create a token that does whatever. For the most part, those will run into regulatory issues. Because for the most part, those are securities. They're not a decentralized currency. They don't have really any applications. These individuals are just trying to raise money because they couldn't raise money, traditionally speaking, from angel investors. And so
is that what these 1,500 tokens and cryptocurrencies essentially represent? Is a flurry of people looking to raise capital in a new way?
Yeah, but for the most part, they're horrible ideas, horrible teams. Well, obviously there's outliers, there's rules, exceptions to rules, but for the most part, they're just garbage. And so when you look at regulations, yeah, you can regulate that Bitcoin is illegal in the countries like Venezuela. You can regulate that you're not allowed to buy Bitcoin, but that doesn't stop Bitcoin. That's the beauty of this open source decentralized technology. They really can't regulate Bitcoin.
Why now they can't regulate it itself as a crypto on the blockchain the way it's designed, but at the choke points where you access it, like for example,
they can regulate exchanges. Yes,
exchanges. So we don't have fully decentralized exchanges yet, right?
No, we're about maybe this year, but I'll say 1.5 2 years out. Yeah.
Do you think that decentralized exchanges will unlock that potential for people? Because as it stands right now, I mean, the government can regulate the shit out of Quadriga or any exchange that I buy crypto on right now and track exactly what I buy, what I sell, and where it goes, right?
Yeah. I think
decentralized, it won't be able to do that.
They're mandatory and they can't do that. Even now, there's things you can do. You can go on your centralized exchange, buy Bitcoin. It's up to you guys if you want to do this. Buy Bitcoin, you can send it to Monero, cash out in Monero, send it back into Monero. Like people use Monero as a privacy coin or Zcash.
And it's completely untraceable.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to send money to...
Well, it is extremely difficult to trace.
Extremely difficult is not impossible. So they'll figure out a way to do it then.
At least today, it's not impossible, but they're building on the tech to make it almost impossible.
And you said there's a lot of developers on Monero.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on with Ethereum? You know, we saw a big spike with CryptoKitties.
Sure.
Is that kind of not doing much right? And I'm talking about like the Ethereum network and itself as a crypto. I mean, the benefit was the smart contracts. You know, I have a house to sell. There's buyers, they can buy it, and the transaction happens naturally that way.
Ethereum's growing. They have amazing developers. You know, we're having EdCon, a big developer conference here in Toronto, first week of May. That will be there. They're planning to go proof of stake, so they're changing the consensus for this year. A lot of smart minds are working on the space. Where you saw the big correction from Christmas till now, and that was a whole crypto market correction. It's healthy, and at the end of the day, what I look for in any good project is proper use case, proper developers, proper scientists, and Ethereum has all those.
Interesting. Let's talk about mass adoption, right? Because that's what I think is holding this back. Is we need people to start using it for commerce, buying. We've got problems. You know, first of all, it's not stable. So what you have right now as Bitcoin is not going to be the same in a month's time. It's always going to change. So we have an unstable value system that's attached to it. So how do we get it mass adopted, and how do we stabilize the value of it? Like, how does that happen?
The way we need to stabilize value is more people need to have it, and there has to be more use case as a payment channel. So right now, Bitcoin more or less is perceived as digital gold. So SOV, store of value utility. But for store of value utility to exist, you need a means of exchange utility. So it has to be exchanged. And so just about a month ago, something called Lightning Network, it's a second layer technology on Bitcoin launched, which is awesome. It gives you, and it's still in experimental mode, so we need a while, but it gives you the options of instant payments in Bitcoin. What I mean by an instant is instant, like Visa level instant. And for me to send Richard, let's say $100 for something he sells me, it'll probably cost me 1/10 of a penny instantaneously. And so when you have these technologies, and it's run on the Onion network too, so privacy is really good. When you have these technologies, the utility increases. And so once you have more people utilizing it around the world for means of exchange, then you'll have a more stabilized price.
I think that we've got a serious correction happening, or that's going to happen in the markets. I don't know when it's going to happen, but there's going to have to be some kind of, something's got to fall apart because it's the house of cards.
Yeah, the student debt bubble.
Student debt bubbles, you know, subprime auto loans. Like, who the hell knows what it's going to be that's going to push this over on its side? But there's going to be some kind of, I almost want to call it like an extinction level event that we need for the monetary system to just collapse, and then people just go, fuck it, I'm going to take all my money, I'm going to put it in this or these cryptos, and then that's going to basically move everybody to new monetary. So let's say in theory that happens. What happens to government and banks then?
It's a very good question. They need to evolve and change. Simple as that.
What do you think their options are?
Well, for government, for one, how many bureaucrats are working there that should not have a job? The only reason they're there is just due to union rules or whatever stupid laws they have into effect. I think 60% of people working in the government could be fired today and replaced by automation and contracts, because they do mundane tasks. It's almost like pressing a keyboard every day. They're not adding any creative value whatsoever. So I think literally 60 to 80% of the government can be replaced by artificial intelligence. Next, for the banks, I think banks need to adapt. I think more and more we're going to see private banks coming up, online banking systems that don't even have a physical location. People are even talking about crypto banks now, full service crypto banks online. So like,
have you seen banks that are getting into that currently that are kind of preparing for that? Like, we know that there's Ripple, and I know that Royal Bank, a Canadian bank, played a big part in creating that.
But I don't consider Ripple a cryptocurrency whatsoever.
Because it's not decentralized.
It's centralized. They can shut it off and on anytime they want. So for me,
so they can take what they want when they feel like it.
Yeah.
Right. What sort of questions should people be asking today that they're not asking right now of the blockchain and cryptocurrency? Like, there's only 1% adoption rate throughout the world, probably even less. So the other 99% that are still kind of watching this going, you guys got burned, it's not happening, it's a Ponzi scheme. What do they got to look at? Like, what questions should they be asking?
I would say one simple one. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And for me, I'm a big proponent of controlling your information, controlling your data, and looking at the historical events of what governments have done to citizens around the world in the last 100 years. And it befuddles me that people think that this won't happen again. Like the government.
What are some key examples of what the government's done? Like some big wows.
It can be a simple one right now in Bali. Just the other day, they shut down the whole fucking internet. They can shut down your internet. They can shut down your VPN. They can shut down your ATM machine. This is happening like fucking last week. And
what
so,
was the reason behind that?
Political issues.
Did they do like a bit of a money grab and seize money out of people's accounts? Like, we know that they did that in parts of Europe when the economy was collapsing on itself.
Yeah, one of the islands too in Crete. When was it? 2012 or 2011?
Mm-hmm.
They just stopped you. You couldn't even take money out of your own bank.
Yeah. Antonopoulos was talking about that. His mother could have lost a shitload of money, but he encouraged her to move it and convert it into crypto, and she managed to hold on to it.
Same thing in China. You know, you can't take all your money out of the bank and leave the country.
So what questions should these guys be asking today?
I think it's a philosophical question. It's not a question.
99%.
It's not a question about technology, because you and I are not going to sit here and pretend to be cryptographers and understand the technology. What people need to understand is history. Histories of governments, histories of war, histories of economies. I think everybody should read everything from Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, anything to do with Austrian economics, and understand what has been happening to our economic policies for the last 100 years. Because you mentioned it earlier, people really don't understand money. And if they actually understood money and understood history, their eyes would open up and be like, fuck.
I don't think if you were to ask 100 average Joes on the street the origin of money and where it's created and how its value is determined, they'd be able to answer it.
No, but we can go something more simpler. We can ask them, how does your taxes work? See, I'm a firm believer. if people actually knew how badly they're getting raped on taxes, they'll really care about money.
Well, I think they know, they just don't care. Like I know from my own personal feelings and experiences that I've had with conversations, with other guys, is it feels like the government sets up a taxation system where they basically push you to the edge to the point where you're about to lose your shit and snap. And then if they start seeing signals of that, then they pull back a little bit, and then they're like, oh, we went a little too far. We got to stop taxing that area. Right. I think people have an idea that taxes hurt because it's basically theft. I mean, they're incredibly useless when it comes to managing that money and dispersing it amongst the population, the country.
I don't know, man. Like, people think they know, but
what do you think?
My opinion, I think people are very passive. Most people will go to like H&R Block, or they won't question where the taxes are coming from and why they're getting taxed. I think if people really understood the history behind the tax and why the tax exists, they would care a little bit more. So it's just a big educational learning curve.
So how would the government tax its people if they were using cryptography, if they were using cryptocurrency? How would they be able to take those resources to allocate it to sewers, hospitals, roads, fire trucks, things like that?
On the blockchain, like if they had their own crypto?
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of blockchain they're using, but they'll be using a private blockchain, they can automatically have an executed smart contract that removes directly from your account.
And what if people don't want to participate in that form of currency? Like, let's say that's built on the Ethereum network and they use something like Zcash or Monero or
That's
something.
The beautiful thing about it. You don't have to participate. So the first time ever in history, we have secondary options of different currencies beyond the fact of just using the government currency.
But won't the government go down kicking, fighting, and screaming to regulate the crap out of that so they don't lose control?
They're doing that right now as we speak.
I mean, it's all about control for them. I mean, the government,
of course,
it's in their best interest to make sure government is big, it continues to grow, and it has a voter base that continues to vote for policies that keeps government big and growing and taking care of the welfare state.
Of course it is. But I always believe technology trumps, it's an X factor. Technology is a tool. You can use it for good or bad. And the genie's out the bottle. Who knows where we'll be in 5 years with the evolution of this technology. I think we're at a precipice where people more and more are waking up and getting fed up with politics, especially now with the whole crazy debacle with the Trump and Hillary campaigns. The whole fact that you're voting for two parties, and the whole fact that everything that you do, they know of. And so I think people are slowly waking up to the fact that we're living in a George Orwell 1984 story.
Oh, it's happening.
Like, we're living in it as we fucking speak.
Yeah. And people don't know it.
I know.
The vast majority of people go around through life like sheep with their eye, like they're sleepwalking through life. They have no idea what's going on around them. They're just like, oh, let's go use Facebook and post this picture. And, oh, Mark Zuckerberg's an asshole. But it's like they don't understand the mechanics behind all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm interested. I think we're going to have a lot of, obviously, issues with reforms or regulations with government fighting back. But I'm very optimistic of the future. I think it's looking better and better for citizens. And I think more and more, I'm actually going to bet on in the future we'll have more and more city states as opposed to nation states.
You think that we're going to
New York? You know, New York was propositioning for becoming a city state too.
A city state.
Yep.
Essentially subdividing out of the state of New York.
Yep. They're so fed up with the state of fucking New York with their taxations and laws and regulation that a lot of the MPs within New York are really pushing to become a city state.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of talk around all kinds of areas like that. It's not like this is something new. Like, I'm not shocked here.
Man, Singapore in the last 45 years, look at what they've done. I was just there in November for 2.5 weeks. It's fucking incredible.
What does it look like there? Tell me.
Cleanest country I've been in, well, city, state, whatever country in the world. What else can I say? Taxation is almost nothing. Corporate tax, like percentage. Public transportation is remarkable. Weather's remarkable. Economy.
Now is that because it's a very small island nation with a centralized,
the size of Toronto,
right? So a country the size of Toronto can maybe a country the size of Toronto can operate as a country with very low taxation, everything centralized, medical system, transport, sewage.
Look at Monaco.
Works, but in a country like Canada, like, how do you do that?
You don't. Hence, city state. Toronto should become a city state. I've been saying this for the last 4 years. Like, we should become a city state, and the people living in fucking Toronto should benefit from living in Toronto. Like, why do we support the rest of the country?
We've always done that. We've always sent subsidy money, and it's the same throughout any large country. I mean, they do the same thing in the States, where larger cities and states, supplement other areas. It's just part of it, right?
Yeah. Well, if we're on the line of technology, just one technology, in fact, that besides blockchain, that if you install this technology or we really focus on this technology, lots can be solved. So getting fast, reliable, cheap transportation. And so a couple of reasons, like most people live in the city due to proximity to their job, right? So you're living in downtown Toronto, the average condo is about $2,400. That doesn't include utilities and parking and extra. So you're looking like $2,700 a month. That's a lot of money. You know, the average Canadian male only makes $40,000. So literally like 70% of your check goes towards your rent. And so you have to live downtown because your job is downtown, etc. And so imagine having, let's say, in Hyperloop or some variation technology where I can go from Barrie or maybe Burlington. I can go from Burlington, which is about 45-minute drive, but I can go on this Hyperloop and I can be downtown Toronto in 10 minutes. I don't want to live downtown Toronto. I'd rather live on a fucking lakefront property, spend $450,000 on a beautiful bungalow and have that type of lifestyle and be downtown in 10 minutes on this Hyperloop. So public transportation increases commerce. It gets people out of the city that can't afford to live in the city, but can still travel to the city on very fast and work in the city, as well as increase national commerce, meaning, hey, I would love to. I used to fly out to Kelowna almost like every 2 months because my fiance was living out there, and it's fucking expensive in Canada to fly out. Imagine I can go to Vancouver or Kelowna for like $150. Only takes me 4 hours. I'll be there almost every weekend. All right. So that's that one technology that can exponentially help every aspect of society is super fast, cheap public transportation.
All right. I'm going to leave it for another 15 minutes. If you guys have questions, you can post them in the comments of the chat. We'll get to those in just 1 second. I'm going to issue my prediction. So I'm going to say it again. I think what we need for this thing really to launch and get picked up is some kind of extinction level event. We need to see the financial market. Something's got to give. And I think that's what's going to force people to say, you know what? This has happened in other parts of the world before. I've got to protect the value that I've created, which I store as money. And rather than store it as this shit, which they just print whenever they need it, they'll just decide on a crypto and work into that. Issue your prediction on what it's going to take to make crypto adopted mainstream.
Well, you hit on earlier. One, it's going to be a couple of Black Swan events, but number two, we have to get off centralized exchanges. And so for people to buy crypto, they need to go on a decentralized exchange that has liquidity, that has millions of users so they can access it.
And that's happening in about 1.5 years.
Yeah. There's a lot of amazing teams building this technology as we speak.
Is there, okay, so let's kind of go a little bit deeper because I know you have a little more insight than the average guy. What you said, Bitcoin, Monero, Zcash, and I think Ethereum were the main ones that developers are spending the most time on.
Yep.
Are those the ones that they're going to build like the first decentralized exchange on?
Yeah. So the major two ones are the one that's the most out there with the team is 0x. That's built on top of Ethereum. And the second one then would be Kyber Network in Asia.
Got it. All right. And before we wrap up, who do you think Satoshi Nakamoto is?
It's actually a group of people, I believe.
You think so?
Yeah. Hal Finney was part of the group, a bunch of other people. So
do you think we'll ever find out?
I think there's people that know who the group of individuals were.
What if it's Elon Musk? You think it's him?
Who knows?
Cool. All right. So I'm just going to wrap it up. I want to thank Ameer for your time. If you want to learn more about the stuff that he talks about on his channel, he's got a channel. It's under his name, Ameer Rosic. He's talked about everything from self-care, working out, kettlebells, and most recently, the last couple of years, blockchain events. And sometimes you'll catch him shooting the shit about crazy stories on his channel, like what was the one you did the other day about
birth control?
Yeah, the male birth control thing where like guys were committed suicide, their dicks weren't working, their testosterone dropped to 0.
And crazy motherfuckers gonna be popping those pills.
They are. It's nuts, man. Anyway, I want to thank you for your time, brother, because we don't get to talk as often as we should. But thanks for hopping on and doing some updates on crypto, because I know I've had the question asked to me so much, in the last couple of months, and I got nothing. It's like I don't know what else to say because there's no new news or updates. So now you have it, guys. We're going to be seeing decentralized exchanges coming. Ameer's prediction is spend time on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, and Zcash. And any last words before you go?
Yeah, just educate yourself.
Open your eyes, man. Yeah, Open your eyes.
Take the red pill.
Take the red pill. There you have it. All right. Thanks, brother.
Take care, man.
We'll see you in the next one. Peace.